Before you watch this episode of our cityCURRENT radio show, I'd like to invite you to join cityCURRENT's e-learning and online personal development platform called GrowthCurrent. I'm Jeremy Park, host of the cityCURRENT radio show and CEO of cityCURRENT. GrowthCurrent is your exclusive ticket to attend virtual events with global thought leaders, national guest speakers, and experts who can help you grow personally and professionally. It gives you access to success secrets, lessons learned, learning modules, and so much more. Being online, you can join us from anywhere in the world. Subscriptions are only $8 a month, or you can do bulk subscriptions for your team. Check out growthcurrent.co to learn more and to join us in our efforts to power the good. And now, on to the show. Welcome back to the cityCURRENT radio show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're honored to be joined by our next guest. We get to dive into the world of technology. We're here with James Fields. He is the founder and CEO of Concept Technology. How are you doing, James?
My gosh, Jeremy, it's great to see you. Doing fantastic. Coming to you live from my porch.
Hey, we want to make sure everybody's safe and healthy. And so, you're a big part of this is making it easy to work from home. And so we'll talk about that. But give us a little background on Concept Technologies, because you do work in various industries. Obviously, technology is the big focus. You make it very easy on the managed IT service provider side. But give us some background.
Yeah, sure. It all started in 2003, and I had been kind of peripherally involved with some companies with whom I now compete. I was really sort of underwhelmed at how they took care of their customers. And I figured, man, geez, I think I could do a better job, because I'm going to treat my customers like it was my mom's company. And I'm going to treat my employees like I would want my kids' employers to treat them. And even though I had no idea how to actually deliver IT services, but I'm like, I can figure that part out. And so we were kind of a culture first company. And geez, man, the first year I was just knocking on doors saying, hey, can I help you all with your computers? And I'm fortunate enough to get enough customers that I could hire a legit IT guy and then another one, and companies would try us out and they'd stick with us. And that's how we kept growing. And now we're at 50 something employees, and we support, about 6,000 Nashvillians here at work. And we're just excited to keep growing. But just like that first day, it's still a culture first company. And I think that's what makes us a little special.
Well, and I love the fact that you talk about, in many cases, people or companies try to use technology to replace people. And you're like, no, wait a second, people first. Let's use the people to really drive the technology and innovation, and then create the efficiencies and all of that using technology. So to your point, it's people first, leveraging technology.
Man, it is. In fact, it's hilarious, because in IT, they refer to human beings as users, right? And you want to talk about like a computer first mindset. When you think that this computer has a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor and a user and a printer, and it's like, wait a second, you're thinking about this all wrong, man. It's the human beings, and the computer is just a tool to make them more effective at their job. And that's really the approach that we want to bring.
Yeah, I never even thought about that as just even the label users. So yeah, to your point, that's an interesting label. So on your end, we talk obviously a lot on this show about the pivots everyone is having to make because of COVID-19 and the pandemic, but you really had to deal with it first before with a tornado that hit in Nashville. And so talk about that move on your end to going virtual with your team, and then how that really set the stage for you to be able to help your clients with everything that we're dealing with the pandemic.
Yeah, geez, man, the early morning of March 3rd, tornado goes tearing through Nashville, as everybody knows, and a huge tragedy, and a lot of people suffered deeply. Me and my company were not one of those. And so as I tell this story, there's part of it where I'm kind of making light of the situation, but I don't want to detract from the loss that a lot of people suffered. For us, our building got hit, but it wasn't destroyed. But it wasn't enough to where we could occupy the building. Fortunately, we have a really good IT company, and so we were up and running that same morning, fully operational from our homes. I think it was 9 a.m. that we were fully operational. Most of our clients didn't even notice or didn't even know until we notified them that we had been hit by a tornado or were working from home. Then in the most bizarre amount of coincidences, 2 weeks later, every other company in Nashville was working from home too, but for a completely unrelated reason. It enabled us to, literally not just exercise our disaster recovery plan, but to experience working from home all of a sudden. And so then when our clients had to do it, we could be a lot more sort of thoughtful and attentive. And it's interesting because there was a big range of preparedness across our client base, and people that had been more inclined to adapt emerging technologies, like, for example, moving to the cloud. It was a much more seamless transition than those that still had on-premise servers and workstations and VPNs and a lot of the boring IT stuff. But we were able to get all of our clients transitioned, and it works pretty well. Now, there's some things that don't work super well, like I generally have to work outside because I got so many kids that are at school and dogs that are barking. And so when it's humid like today, it's not as pleasant, but it's a remarkable thing. And I'll say this, that our building, the construction on that is not yet complete. And so the upside is that we don't have to pay rent until it's habitable again.
There's always a bright side. Talk about on your end some of the major topics in terms of your clients that are dealing with the working from home. So we'll stay on this thread, but I'm thinking things like security and the Wi-Fi routers not being secure as being in the office, and setting up the home technology and being able to interface. So what are some of the major challenges and hurdles or things that you're seeing with your clients to navigate and help them through?
Yeah, man, there's so much to unpack here. You and I have discussed previously the home internet connection, not quite as robust. If you are a lot of us and you use Comcast, they don't give you an infinite supply of bandwidth. So you chew through that bandwidth. It's also not designed to have 4 concurrent streaming sessions without interruption. Most people's wireless infrastructure at their home is also not designed to be a, business grade wireless infrastructure. And so just the nuts and the bolts of the networking is a little bit complicated. And then for companies like us to then have to troubleshoot it when it doesn't work is a whole nother thing, because we're not going into people's homes. And so we're having to do this remotely in strange and unfamiliar environments. The security side is huge. And there's a wide array of companies where, for every company, security is important. For regulated businesses like banks and credit unions and medical practices, or people that have any kind of patient healthcare information, it's a really big deal. Have a household of people that theoretically have access to these corporate systems. If somebody leaves their computer logged on, it could literally be a toddler just banging away on the keyboard. What a major security threat that's been on the rise, and most people that have corporate jobs will have seen this, which is you get an email that looks like it's from the boss asking you to do something. And a lot of times these criminals, and they've gotten so smart now. I would never be a criminal, but if I ever was going to be, I would be this kind of criminal because it's so easy, which is literally just to look through companies' websites and LinkedIn, and you can just pretend to be the CEO, and you can email the CFO and tell them you got an emergency wire transfer for this customer, and it's a company maybe that you follow on LinkedIn, and you put a logo of Microsoft or of some logistics company, and the whole thing checks out. And if you don't have really good procedures in place, then you might get tricked. But being remote, it's even worse, because if you're in the office, there's at least hey, Bob, why did you send me this email? And those things don't happen as organically. Or they know that he's at lunch, and so it's impossible that you just got the email. But we're seeing that the level of those and the occurrence of those phishing scams is literally going through the roof. It's scary times.
So talk about how you're able to help companies with being able to kind of manage that. And I know there's training that goes into that, obviously a lot of protection on your end and just constant monitoring, but talk about how you're able to kind of fight against that.
Yeah, the two big things that everybody can do, and it's not expensive, right? You can go down the rabbit hole of deep advanced security stuff, and the price starts to get really high, and it can price itself out of the small business community. But the two things that everybody's got to do, one is you got to train your people on how to identify these kinds of scams. You've got to have the financial and HR policies that basically have, whether it's, you got to get 2 signatures for a wire transfer, or just some rigid system to where one person can't transfer. I mean, we've literally seen a company who paid a $400,000 invoice to a fake company. And that money's gone. Like, it's gone. Like, they paid it to a wrong routing and checking number, and they can't get it back. And so you can't have one person make that mistake, because that could be business ending. And then the most important thing, which somehow people still resist, is using multi-factor authentication or 2-factor authentication. And for those of you that don't know, that's where if you log into your email account, your Microsoft 365 account, your G Suite account, especially from like a new browser, then you have to also have something on your phone that will enable you to authenticate. So there's something that you know, like your password, and then something that you have, like your cell phone. It's an extra step. It's a minor inconvenience. So a lot of people don't want to do it. Now, we've all agreed, I think, as a society, that you can't have your email password be Titans, right? Because we all know that doesn't work. So we've all accepted that you have to have complex passwords. This is that, right? It's a pain in the same way that when you come home and you've got an armful of groceries, that you've got to hit the keypad to turn your alarm off. But we've all agreed that you have an alarm system at your house. It's a minor lift, but you just have to do it. And multi-factor authentication is no longer some aspirational security measure. It's now the baseline. It's the locking your front door with a deadbolt when you go on vacation. Like, that's what MFA is now. Great advice.
Carry that forward to what's got your attention when you look at trends in technology and where things are headed. Obviously, cloud is the big one to me, is, the opportunities that it really opens up for businesses. But what are some of the major trends or major things that have your attention for where we're headed?
For us, it's mostly now focused around the Microsoft ecosystem and the Microsoft modern workplace, which Microsoft is amazing at technology. They're not as great at branding their technology, and so the names kind of keep shifting. But it's basically the 365 ecosystem, where before you would have physical servers that authenticated your users and hosted your files, and maybe had your email server there, and all that stuff now is up in the cloud through SharePoint and Microsoft Teams and Outlook Online. And the rate of development that Microsoft is putting into this is absolutely breathtaking. Back when everything used to be on-prem, they would come out with periodic software releases and upgrades, but they were all sort of evolutionary and not revolutionary. The rate at which they can update this product suite is developing so fast that it's hard for us to keep up. And that's all that we do, is try to keep up with this. I mean, we never feel like we've got our hands on it, because as soon as we do, they come up with something new. With Microsoft Teams, which most of our clients use, and that is really replacing so many existing tools. If you're a business that uses Microsoft platform and you're not using Teams, then you should. Like, that's where we go for all of our internal communications, all of our files, all of our calendars. It's all done in Teams now. You can also use Teams as your telephone system. So I can call my buddy's cell phone through Teams. I can receive calls through Teams. And that's turning out to be the hub of that Microsoft 365 ecosystem. There were people probably maybe around the time that Windows Vista came out and Mac came out with OS 10, that people thought that Microsoft was in decline. And it is the opposite now, man. They are emerging as the absolute dominant player.
What's something that you've learned over the past few months going through the pandemic that you think has made your company stronger, that you think obviously coming out of this, you're going to be in a better position?
I think I mentioned previously that we're a culture first company and we're a people first company. It's interesting, like I'll go with a little thing first, which, because we didn't have an opportunity to plan to work remotely, the tornado dictated that we literally told people, don't come to work today because you can't get in. And so we didn't have time to thoughtfully think through, well, what do our remote workers need to be set up for success to work from home? And that's something that I think people need to really lean in on, right? And so we've let our folks come and like take office chairs and stuff from our office, or get extra monitors and their docking stations and all this, because you don't, if you're huddled over a laptop, that's going to be a miserable experience. And so, I started this company because I wanted to go to work at the kind of company that I wanted to get up and go to work to every day. And so I want everyone to wake up and want to go to work at our place every day. And so we need people to have a reasonable and inviting home work environment. One of the things that's been fascinating is that we now have hired, I don't know, probably half a dozen people post-quarantine that we have never met. And we've gone through the entire hiring process and onboarding and training and done all that, and we've never actually met them, which is really weird, but it's caused us to really be so deliberate about our culture in our interaction. Because like everybody, man, you start a new job and you're unsure and you don't know what's what, and you're really wanting to do the best job, but you're a little nervous. But you can always turn to the person next to you and be like, hey man, what should I do here? But we don't have that, right? It's like this guy's home alone at his kitchen table or at his home office, and he doesn't know what to do. And so we've really worked hard to build this just sort of community where it's a community of sharing, and even little stuff like right now we're just sharing like, what are your top 4 albums of all time? And then you name them and why, and then you sort of ping somebody else, and then it's their turn to respond. And so if you're not considerate about that, you're going to end up with sort of 2 cultures. There's the people that used to work together, and then there's the new people that no one's ever met before. And then I think when we all get back together, that could be a little weird.
Well, I love the fact that you're being intentional about it, and intention to me is such a key part of success. So wrap up and talk about the different industries and the different clients that you work with. So in other words, who do you work with, and then talk about your contact information. Where do we go to get more information?
Yeah, perfect. So we support a couple hundred local businesses here where we are their IT department. They are all between 10 and 200 employee companies. And what they all have in common is that they all care about IT. Right, they don't look at it as a necessary evil, but something that they just have to deal with. They look at it as a way to be a competitive advantage in their space. They know that because everybody has to buy computers and everybody has to have antivirus software, and you've got to have this stuff. And so we have clients that want to say, okay, I've already made this investment in technology. How do I leverage this existing investment to get the best possible performance out of my team? And that's what our clients have in common. And so we do business with not-for-profits and entertainment companies and professional services companies and manufacturing and healthcare and almost every vertical. But they all care, and they all want to do great work, and they want to be the best company that they can be. And we want to empower them to do that. Absolutely.
So talk about website, social media, phone number. How do we get in touch with you?
Oh, great. Yeah, listen, go to, you can just Google Concept Technology Nashville, or go to concepttechnologyinc.com, and we'd love to get in touch with you. And you can email me at jfields@concepttechnologyinc.com.
Well, James, thank you for all you and your team do. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, I appreciate it very much. Thank you.